Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to play Salerno 43, a Mark Simonich's game. We're going to do a playthrough of the Avalanche Scenario. And the game starts with a special turn called the Invasion turn. And it's the Invasion combat phase. And during this phase, the Allied players roll dice for each landing on the beach. And that's how we're going to start off the game. And then we will continue from there on to German turn number 1 and Allied turn number 1. That's where we'll end this video. So hopefully you enjoy The Invasion of Salerno 43 by Mark Simonich. So let us begin up in the north with the Rangers and Commandos. The Rangers are going to land on Maori, and for that they roll a 3 die, which allows the Rangers to advance after combat 2 hexes. The first hex is the port of Maori, where they're going to drop off 1 battalion, and then the second hex that they can move into, 2 battalions are going to head up towards Chiunzi Pass. The main objectives here in the early part of the game is to have the Rangers hold the Chiunzi Pass and maybe interrupt the flow of German soldiers coming from the north. The Commandos are looking to invade Vitry Samar and move into Salerno. With a roll of 4 on the dice, they have 2 movement points. After entering Vitry Samar, a battle will erupt. Before breakthrough combat can happen, the variable combat unit must roll a dice to see what its combat value is. With a 6, it has a combat value of 2. At 3-to-1 odds, and with a dice roll of 3, the defender must retreat 2 hexes. The German player cannot retreat, so he tries to do a determined defense, and with a dice roll of 2, does not succeed. After successfully beating the variable strength unit, the Commandos roll into Salerno, scoring victory points. Further south, the British begin their advance on Uncle's Beach. With a dice roll of 3, they can advance 1, so they move onto the beachhead. The units moving into Sugar Beach fare a little better with a roll of 6. This allows them to advance 2, so they come into the beachhead and move on to Monte Corvino and attempt to take away the airfield from the Germans. This also scores a victory point. The British units moving on to Roger Beachhead only roll a 1 on the die, which allows an advance of 1. This means they can only sit there and secure the beach. Not the best of dice rolls for the British. Moving further south onto the Americans' Red Beach, they roll a 3, which allows an advance of 2. Moving 2 units inland, finally securing the beachhead. Also rolling a 3, units of the 141st Regiment drops a battalion to help guard the beachhead, and then moves another unit inland 1 more hex to make a Zoc bond between Red and Blue Beach. The first part of the German phase involves weather, but there is nothing there. In the initial phase, we place reinforcements, use replacements, or flip ASUs. The Germans do have 2 reinforcements to place. The first reinforcement will be coming in from the north, and the other entering along the southern edge of the map. Then it's on to the German movement phase. The Germans are going to start out in the north with their reinforcement. The HG reconnaissance unit will follow the road movement all the way down to Norsarian Inferior. The 16th Panzer KG reconnaissance unit will follow road movement down to Salerno and box in the commando units. The 16th Panzer Mechanized Infantry will move into the valley of the mountains to offer some protection from the large Commonwealth invasion force. The 16th Panzer Dongeschütz will move south out of Battaglia to offer some protection to the ASU that is moving south out of Ebole, and the ASU is now within reach of the troops on the beach. In the south, the German airborne unit will board onto a truck, and using the truck movement plus extended movement, will reach all the way to Ebole to offer some protection for the city. A battalion of panzers will move south along the road to meet up with the American troops that just landed on Red Beach. A second battalion of panzers and mechanized infantry will make its way north to offer some support to the 1st Battalion of Panzers against the American troops who just moved off Red Beach. In the south, a motorized garrison variable strength will make its way north to head off the invading troops on Red and Blue Beach. South of Blue Beach, the 16th Panzer Motorized Infantry, the elite unit, will move using road movement around the mountain, will stop in Filito. The next turn, it will move on up to reinforce up by the beaches and help with a stronger attack on the Americans. On to the combat phase. The first combat is at Red Beach, where the 16 Panzer units will attack the 36 infantry units. Flipping the ASU, they create a 4-to-1 odds. Fearing the worst, the Americans bring in air support. The Germans roll a disastrous 1 on the combat result table, which results in an exchange which the units lose 1 step picked by the opposing player. The American infantry loses a step, while the 16 Panzer units lose a complete single-step unit. The next German phase is the recovery phase, where you can rally troops and remove any markers. The Germans remove the truck marker in Ebole. The Axis player now moves to the supply phase. The 10th Army will use 1 supply point to flip over to the ready side, the ASU that it used in the previous battle. Now it's time for turn 1 of the American Allies. There's nothing for the Americans to do in the weather phase, so they move to the initial phase. There also is nothing to do there, so now the Americans move on to the movement phase. Starting in the north, the Americans move 2 battalions of Rangers up into the zone of control of Nazarian Inferior. The other battalion of Rangers will move east into Vitry-sur-Mer to secure 2 ports in the north. At Uncle's Beach, a brigade of infantry will move north towards Salerno, while a battalion of infantry will move into the mountain pass. A battalion of tanks will also move north to help out with the defense of Salerno. A brigade and a battalion of infantry will move east towards Battaglia to offer some resistance and eventually invade the town. Along with them will be a battalion of tanks. Follow-up forces from the 46, 2 brigades of infantry, will land on Rogers Beach and move inland their maximum distance. In the south, the 36 infantry will move tactical movements to surround the 16th Panzer mobilized infantry. The 36th follow-up wave will also come in through Blue Beach and threaten the 16th Panzer mobilized infantry unit. This will include 1 tank unit which will head south to block and protect the beachhead from any German unit approaching from that direction. When units come in and move next to enemies, they have to use the half efficiency tag on them. The same goes for the Commonwealth units up near Battaglia. We mark Mallory with a American flag because it is a victory port. The Allies now move into the combat phase. The commandos up in Salerno can only achieve a 1-to-2 odds against the 16 Panzer Division, so no attack will be made there. Up near Battaglia, the units of the 56 off of Rogers Beach can also only achieve a very small combat ratio. No attacks will be made there. However, the 36th Division near Red Beach for the Americans can achieve good odds, especially with the firing of the ASU. The odds end up at a 6-to-1 advantage, but the Americans do have a low roll of 2, but it still achieves a D1 result. The defender must lose a step and will retreat 3 hexes. The Americans' 36th Division will take advantage of the advance and move in next to the river to continuously put pressure onto the 16th Panzer Division. Here ends the American combat for turn 1. Now the Americans move on to the recovery phase. The recovery phase will allow the Allies to remove any half efficiency markers on the units that recently arrived in the invasion beaches. The Allies will also place an American flag counter on any victory hexes that they've achieved during this turn. Next, we check supply and flip any ASUs, but we don't have any supply points to do that, so we move on to the victory check phase. And so far, the Americans do not have an outright victory yet. Adding up the Allied capture locations, we find that the Allies have achieved 5 victory points, which is an excellent start and end for turn 1. Next, we move on to turn 2 for the Axis player. Here we're going to end turn 1 with the Allies having good control of the beaches and the invasion force moving quite rapidly inland. The Germans do have a lot of stuff to catch up on, but they do get a large amounts of support in turn number 2. Hopefully you will be with us to enjoy that. If you do like what I'm doing here, please do like and especially subscribe to the channel. That helps encourage me to do more of these playthroughs. And we'll see you next time as we play Salerno 43, Turn 2, a Mark Simnich game by GMT. Thanks for watching.